All right, then let's call this a start. Good morning, happy Saturday, everybody out there in California and north of that, and anywhere else in the that my actual 120 subscribers are from. It's great to have you here. Trusty old Crow back to do another one of the tactical perspective comparatives. Going to tackle 1991 now and have a look at what G.I. Joe looked like when that release came out and what it compares up against what we have in the classified line currently, either in our collections or in the pipeline that we know are coming out, or things we've heard rumors and discussions. And as I've covered in the previous videos in this line where I started at 82 and worked our way up, some very long videos there. You guys know this was past that phase where I was in high school now, and the only Joes I was seeing was in my cousin's collection, whether I contributed to it or not. But even in this, then 91, it was getting hard to hang on to that Joe draw for that phase. I was going through a lot of stuff as a teenager, as we all were, right? So I was on a timeout. I was on leave, right? Leave without pay from the Joes, as far as all that looked, right? So did not love them still, just wasn't seeing that much of them. So I'm stepping into some foreign ground. So this video really is just there's not going to be a whole lot to it. I am going to take my two picks, one for Joe and one for Cobra, that I think if you're going to tackle the 91 line and pick one out of there, this is what I would recommend. And I'm also going to pick a very interesting vehicle today out of that line, because 91, things were starting to look a little rough over there at Hasbro, I'm thinking things were looking a little... you didn't have as many figure releases. You didn't have as many vehicle releases. It was almost like Hasbro was clawing back and looking at back when my boy Brent was working over at Hasbro, and realizing there was some damage done. There was some expectations, and there was some not met expectations. That's my opinion of it. I might be very wrong. Maybe the market did really well and they dialed back for other reasons. I have no idea. But that's what it looks like to your old Crow. Yeah, so those of you new to the channel, I am a Canadian Forces veteran, combat arms, and there goes my Joes. Recently retired, and this is what I'm doing for my hobby, right? All right, grunt point two. You can go up there. And so... I'm not looking to really grow my channel huge, but I am looking at about, I'm going for 200 next, sure. I like this small, comfortable market. I am compelled by it because it feels like I'm talking to the guys at work. Like 100 guys is very work familiar. I don't know how I'm going to be if I ever got bigger than that. So it's just, you guys have watched me. Those of you who subscribed since the beginning, you've watched how I've grown into this channel, and you know, Crow's doing fine. So 1991, like I said, I didn't have many of them, but I do have the ones I did have represented in just thematics only here, okay? So I'm giving you a little clue as to what's coming down the pipe and where my picks might lay. And let's get the Crow out of the way. Take a sip of that coffee of my Leafs mug, who lost to Chicago yesterday in overtime. Terrible. So here we got Cobra Commander and General Hawk arguing over a broken mirror, and if it is 7 years bad luck. And it's actually just a quick nod to my retro collection, Lady J, I picked up on sale at Toys R Us the other day. And no, I'm not sponsoring Toys R Us. Sponsorship is just it's never going to happen with a guy like me. However, they're arguing over the broken mirror and 7 years bad luck, which actually just happened just before I started shooting. I broke that little mirror. And I got a new camera stand. That's why we're bobbing. We're bobbing right now, but it stopped. It's better than the last camera stand. Anyways, enough delay. You'll see I've got a hint at Cobra Commander, General Hawk. Some very loved Joes over here. Oh, geez, let me get in. There we go. Some loved Joes. And some Cobra Crimson Guard love. Okay, so let's get into what was going on in 91 as far as music. What was that big hit? And can you still tie this back to Joe, Ryan? It's getting harder. I'm not gonna lie. If you guys remember, 91 was a very competitive movie market at the time. There was some big blockbusters of note. I won't mention which one won, but I will mention that the top track in 1991 was a Canadian. Hooah! Brian Adams came out with Everything I do it for you. And no, I'm doing you guys a favor. I'm trying to keep the singing out of this, so I won't sing that terribly, and make you play with your audio. So yeah, Everything I do it for you came out for the movie Robin Hood, starring Kevin Costner, and it had Christian Slater, who was really big at the time. He was, I think, at the highlight of his career, and would get the resurgence like 20 years later. So we had that as the top song. Now, how does that tie into G.I. Joe? Oh, what did I say about it? Everything I do it for you. Okay, well, that's not really about G.I. Joe. That's about G.I. Joe reviewers, in my opinion, in this day and age right now. And that's where I started doing this, guys. I started just with me doing the Tag Perspective toy review. But we do it for you. Okay, yeah, it's pleasing to me to make a video and get to blather on for a half hour about a character that really made my day, or that reminds me of my childhood. You know, I like to put a lot of perspectives on there, put that military experience to work and see what I see. But I do that for me. But the reviews we do for you, to let you know in a way whether your expectations on this character are being met, if they parallel mine, whether there had been quality control issues that you are spotting randomly happen to a amateur reviewer, so therefore maybe you need to consider what that quality control issues. Sometimes you'll see something in a review guy's show where he talks about it and makes you want to figure more or less, reprioritize. That's what we do for you. Okay, what was the big movie in 91? It was Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I'll be back. I'm back. Okay, no. So you got the T-2000s, you got to play with a lot of CGI, and it was all about going back and killing John Connor again, this time sending a Terminator back to save him. So how do I tie this to Joe? Okay, 2 Terminators, and here in 91 we get a second Bat, and they say Bat version 2, right? So you get that whole Terminator situation, and then of course they would love to go back in time and kill General Hawk, I'm sure, but that's not going to happen, right? Or does it? Because at this point Hasbro's Joe line are starting to play with fire through squirt guns, really. Anyways, that's what was going on. I've tied it to Joe. Like I said, I alluded to in the 90 video. I'm not going to hint at what 90210 presents to the table. Although there is that temptation to just dramatize and whatnot just for fun. But I'm going to spare us all that. And I'm going to get right into what I liked about some of these figure line. And what my quick opinions are of it. So for that, I'm just going to bump the camera up a little bit. And I'm going to bring this up closer to my trusty tablet and what I wanted to talk to you about. See, there's that pop. Hey, guys. Okay, in gunnery, we call this stab on. And that's when our stabilization kicks in and keeps that gun supported. I don't know what they call it in camera work. Probably having more than one guy and not doing a one take and editing. They probably call it competency. I don't know. But this is a one take, and that's why half of you guys are here. Watch me screw up live. All right, so Big Ben. Yep, there goes a figure right now. Big Ben did come out in this line. So is it relevant? Absolutely. It's relevant to our Joe collection today because we know that Big Ben is a Walmart exclusive, and you know how I feel about those. For Night Force and the G.I. Joe Classified line. And a lot of people have the Big Ben already, and the feedback I've seen on it is that they are pleased with it, and therefore my feedback is, God damn it, I'm jealous. So you guys know I only out of this Walmart line have been able to get an order in for Wolf Spider, yet Walmart is currently sold out of Big Ben as well. Okay, we got the Bat version 2. And this is what I was saying, like, there you go, lots of bats. I had a bat in here, and we talk about those droids coming to life, right? So the thing I don't like I don't like about it is it still looks very human for something that's supposed to be a battle droid. And I think if they were going to revisit this idea, you'd want to visit some things that maybe guys like Neil Blomkamp and Ridley Scott and all of them brought to the table with the better sci-fi weapons. Yeah, there goes Hawk. Make better choices than we did with some of the Viper weapons and stop repeating Viper weapons as your default sci-fi weapon. And then there goes everybody else. Broken mirror. All right, but we've seen it with Tripwire, right? You get the drones and everything like that, and that all started as sci-fi in someone's mind a long time ago, but it's reality, right? So Hasbro has an attempt to envision the future more thoroughly here. I'm gonna get my elbow off the table. It's causing the stability to go off again. And then you get away from this battle android of the 80s concept, which the bats were, and maybe step into what we are doing these days with some of the AI experimental stuff. Clearly, we're not building a real AI person yet, or have we? Does not compute. But maybe the V2 bat could be more technologically looking better, you know what I mean? Anyways, we have the tech. We have the know-how. All right, Cobra Commander version, whatever. Not much on there. Really don't want to see it in the prioritization of the figure line or Cobra Commanders for that matter. It comes with that dollar store glider that you can just sling around. Great. What a feature. Wonderful. And if you're wondering if we are still trying to do that, these are commonly found at my dollar store. So G.I. Joe still getting a drip revenue from dollar stores, I'm sure. All right, and then you got the Crimson Guard Immortal, this masterful. So you heard me, I'm a big fan of the idea of the Crimson Guard as an infantry parade soldier as we see them. I know that they're undercover, they're disguised, they're sleeper agents. It's your neighbor, it's your dad. God damn it, you're a Crimson Guard. But these things hang in the closet, and you heard on my review of this is parade dress, and they did a good job with parade dress. But the Crimson Guard Immortal also would bring to the table, I guess I had to read their file card for what they were, but basically Crimson Guard 2.0, and basically lawyers that work out in the gym and things like that. So I just picture things like Dolph Lundgren, or there's one of my favorite TV characters, Mike Milligan from Fargo, and I picture two Crimson Guards flanking him. He would represent the Immortal. I think it's a title more than the fact that they're not. I don't think they're immortal. They're not gods. Desert Scorpion joined the line, Desert Scorpion, I guess, joined the line, and here we go with the Jozu increasing, and now we are getting radiated, mutated, oversized scorpions of illogic. And don't worry, he's not the most venomous scorpion out there. That's not the Death Adder, guys. So on scale, the largest scorpions we know of, I think, are about this big, and that big. Not necessarily, the size of your Rottweiler. And so it's an interesting pet choice right away, and I really don't want to see it. That's the Death Adder. So funny story, guys. This wasn't in Afghanistan, but there was lots and lots of these yellowish ones that made us ask, are these Death Adders? I didn't come across a Death Adder in Afghanistan anyways, but I do remember one night being out on patrol, and we had stopped at this one place. I don't have the picture, and that's fine. Yeah. Oh, yes, I do. No, I don't. Anyways, there's my old man moment. We went out. We were doing. Actually, we were holding up an OP at the near radio tower outside Kabul, and these things were crawling all over that hill and all over the old Soviet air defense equipment and things like that. And I remember going to the bathroom one night at oh dark stupid. It was a beautiful night full of stars, and I had my NVGs on, and I looked down and I noticed I could really see these guys through NVGs, and that changed my target for relieving myself. But it was fun to try and get these scorpions. It became a game to keep me amused when the night was quiet and there was no contact. All right, so anyways, do I think there's a market for him? No, but Could there be if Hasbro did a good job? Sure, but I really wouldn't want to see that Scorpion out there. It's just it's again, you like me, you know how I like to say jumping the shark. Speaking of which, Dusty comes back in a really cool version of himself for the desert camp, switching up that sun protected helmet for the desert cat beret. It looks like special forces to me. That's the same color of our beret our Canadian Kansofcom use, and he's got his sleeves up. He's in a muscle shirt, which you know how I feel about those muscle shirts. There we don't have them. It starts to look wrestly, but I mean he's making that work. Dusty looking charming, but he's got a pet coyote now. And I'm thinking to myself, Hasbro, was Dusty not doing well after you did the Dusty and the Dusty Tiger Force? Is because I think this Dusty actually might, but we'll see. Anyways, you can see some potential in later iterations of the character. General Hawk. Okay, if you guys had a look at your General Hawk box art for the G.I. Joe Classified 103, I think he was, or 102, in there, you saw that character flying around in the background, and I was spitting fire at you. I was like, first I said it's Flash, and he's got an assault jump pack because the steel cord took the other jump packs. And then I was saying, no, wait, maybe that's Wild Weasel, and he's flying on a Cobra Claw, and there's a new Cobra Claw coming, right? Because it looked like he was destroying that base, and it does look to me like Joe's defending that base, not attacking it. But somebody pointed out, no, it's this, and it made sense. Like, it did look a lot like this. The silhouette did match up with this character, and instantly made me sad to think that might be what it is, and not something else. But who knows? Anyways, Hasbro's always done a great shout out to all their boxes. And if you guys aren't following the box art, okay, your individual character box art is telling a story from the cartoons or cartoon-esque episode as best as it can. And your Hasbro Pulse and Hasbro HasLab and all the fancy photography for promotional images where they're all in the desert and everything like that. And I believe Night Force might fall somewhere in between these two. That's telling a different story entirely, right? And that's the one where you're getting these cryptic leaks to nods and Easter eggs and things like that. So 91 also brought us a new version of Grunt, the squad leader version of Grunt. And he comes with this big ass mortar and a huge gun. Stepping very much away from the Grunt image and now starting to look like an artilleryman. Or at least dipping into Short Fuse's lawn and taking out all the good seeds, right? So it's like, let's get Short Fuse out there. If not, let's get Downtown out there. But let's not change Grunt to suddenly take my mortar teams away, all right? Just not into it, right? So Heavy Duty, another variant on him or whichever. I've lost track of Heavy Duty, right? So I was all about Roadblock and Rock and Roll, and you hear me mix their names up all the time. Heavy Duty wasn't one I was tracking as much, but there's the Fig, and there's this big sci-fi lumbar killer, rocket launcher, twin cannons with no belts of ammo, totally illogical weapon system. Again, I just don't want to see this coming out in the line and ahead of other characters, clearly. This one's got a little bit of mixed thoughts from me, because at first I was like, what the hell? Lowlight went through something here. Either Lowlight became a completely other different person than Coop, and he's just using the Lowlight name, or Coop went through a complete identity crisis and grew a beard and dyed his hair and did stuff. I don't know. Don't really care. Up until I saw these photos, and then I was like, okay, well, now I want to hate him and love him at the same time. All right, so do I think it would make a great character for the classified line? Sure. But it's Lowlight? Yeah, okay. Again, I had walked away at this point, so either way, interesting character. Maybe he makes my list. We don't know. Incinerators. Here's another one for your troop builders. The flamethrowers to go with the Heat Vipers from the previous year. This time they're they're more of a red, and the Heat Vipers were an orange, but you can start to see fire support when you see the Saw Vipers and everything like that. These big body formations of army building that kids have been doing along the Joe line all along are now getting more support weaponry in 91. Mercer comes out of the Marauder set and into a figure now, and I'm not a big fan of the accessories, but you know, the figure itself has its potential in the classified line for sure. Red Star. It's almost like I've been screaming about October Guard, or at least subtly whistling October Guard this whole time. And some of you might be wondering, those of you who've gotten to know the Crow over all these videos, hey man, you keep saying you didn't read that many comics and you didn't see that many cartoons, but you just like the toys and everything, but you never saw an October Guard toy. So how did you hear about it? I had the issue where Stalker and them joined up with the October Guard for a mission, and I was tracking that they were around. And I was very excited at the premise that Classified could bring them in, same way they're bringing in people from Night for Night Force and Tiger Force. It would be good to see some October Guard represented. I know other people cross other products into their Hasbro collection from the UK in the form of other brands, and I think Hasbro could really seize those guys back by doing a good October Guard for sure. But it's delicate, right? Because you've got the Russian sensitivities in the modern era right now, and what's going on over there with Ukraine, Latvia, everything to do with the Russians. Politics right now is very volatile in the conversation circles, right? So do you bring out an October Guard and upset somebody? Possibly could happen, right? But there they are from the comics, and some great art going around with them, and a lot of really cool other characters that would obviously follow Red Star into the line once they got started, right? I'll show you this other picture for the comic collectors in the Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane era. There was the Joe art for them. We'll get that out of there. Okay, so Snake Eyes, you'd get another variant of Snake Eyes on this line, something a little bit more Masters of the Universe almost looking. Yeah, I'm not overly impressed with that one. And on the priorities of Snake Eyes, you saw in the earlier video when I was plugging that Tundra Stalker, I glazed over that Commando Snake Eyes, but I showed you all the other variants, and I would take any one of them, including that Commando Snake Eyes from that day, from that year, over this. It just, to me, is not necessary to be turned into a classified figure. And then the Snow Serpent version 2, I guess. Yeah, I could definitely see a market for that. People seem to be really loving that new Snow Serpent that's on the Hasbro line right now. And this could be a good follow-up answer. I would just recommend it not be a deluxe set and just be a standard troop building, low price point retail fig and nothing more. And that would, I think that would satisfy the consumers just fine. I could see that being something tossed around in that brainstorming room that they sit in. Tracker's another interesting one. I brought up Dolph Lundgren earlier. I'm not going to again, but check out that guy is radical. It's like a mix between Cyclops from the X-Men and Dolph Lundgren from whatever. But it would come with an inflatable raft, and I thought that was adorable, right? Like, you can just picture the dad just trying to blow that thing up, or it pops and the kid cries, and you've bought him now 3 trackers just trying to keep that thing from popping. Then we got some repaint or some re-envisionings of characters you've heard me talk about, so my opinion doesn't change. Do we need a sci-fi? Sure, but I prefer a Flash first, thanks. There's the dad trying to blow up the things. Yeah. That's how we all feel about, well, how I would feel about little tiny balloon pieces and trying to get the air in. So, and then that was the end of that. But now we're going to talk about the Eco Warriors really quick. And by really quick, I mean, I'm going to keep scrolling through and just show you who they were, what they were coming with. This was the part where I can't help it. I'm like, if Hasbro does this in a classified line, I think that's when I am done with the classified, and I respectfully tip my waiter and exit the restaurant and write a review. That's the end of it, because I could not stand this premise any less, and it is completely undesirable. It was undesirable to me then, and it's undesirable to me now. You know, like you hear me talk about all this stuff like it's just not good. No, that's not my point. It was probably good for the generation it was designed for, which was the ones after mine. And I don't mean to make them feel like I don't appreciate their product or their toys from their childhood. If that's you, if you're 40 and under and you feel like I'm ripping on your toys, please, that's not what I'm at all trying to do. This was my thought process at the time. Okay, this is how I felt about it. It's how I feel about them now. But if I was that age then, I would have been gobbling these up too. Sure, sure. Why wouldn't I? It was influence and an influence and effect, guys. So there was also the noise ones. You know, I can just picture it now. These staticky little noise when you press the buttons, and you heard me saying this is the second line or second year of them on the shelves, I think. So I guess they didn't all die before you got them home, I guess. Maybe they had a couple of unique catchphrases, but not really into them. It's just old figures, but some different repaints that could show up. I wouldn't rule them out as something that be looked at when they're trying to look at 4 or 5 designs of a character and take the law of averages. You have to consider these, right? So, all right, we got a mail order lifeline. And again, guys, I don't own my images. I pull them off YouTube, but I also go to places like toycollectors.com because they have at least the roster, right? So Lifeline came out as a mail order. I'm not sure what the story is with that, what they done differently with him. Lifeline was only available in 91 through Kellogg's by purchasing Rice Krispie cereal. But I remember this is the V3 Lifeline, so the one that came after the Tiger Force in the original. So I'm not quite sure what was different about it. Anyways, and then you guys heard me say 91 was rough. There wasn't hardly any vehicles. You saw all those low price point toys to just keep Joe Perpetuing selling, right? So I said earlier, those price points toys like these Eco Warriors or the press down button make a noise boxes, and then the Battlefield accessories and all the little grab dinky toys that we've seen in the last couple of years, those were for kids and their allowances when it was hard to get a Joe, but you had to buy an impulsing because they wanted you to impulse buy, right? That was a big trickle revenue for them. When Joe stock ran out, what else could we get at that price point comparative to a figure that a kid's going to spend his allowance on or annoy his parents to buy, and they're going to be okay with it because it's the same as getting a figure. So we didn't get as many of those this time, right? So this is why I'm saying rough round in 91 for them, because here we go, only 6 vehicles. I think the attack cruiser came out, big old open top weapon system. You know how much I'm a big fan of those. And then you can see that they're borrowing from the Formula One aspect of battle. I wouldn't even put this in the boardroom at HasLab to consider it. I would move. I would definitely get some older models out of the way. You have the most military looking of them all in the Badger, I suppose. But even then, it's just a glorified dune buggy. Looks like almost like a cockpit jet, kind of like an A-10 mounted on wheels. I don't know. I'm not hating on it. It's just would it work as a HasLab? I think everything else has a priority. Would it work as an over-the-counter? I think everything else has a priority earlier in the line. Same as the battle wagon here. And then these motorized rapid-fire cannons that shoot. I'm trying to remember the story about that, because I remember when the Boba Fett that fired the rocket launcher changed the toy market by doing harm to a family, and I think there was a fatality or a maiming involved. We stopped seeing toys that shot projectiles, and I'm wondering if this must have been around when they solved it, right? So then you got these glorified half tank, half play sets, lots of gunnery features, and when we say play sets and whatnot, it's the real draw here is about how many figures you can cram into it, how big is it, does it dominate your toys, is there storytelling, and clearly they wanted to tell all sorts of stories when they started developing this stuff, but none of it based on, as far as I could tell, any conceptualized tech I'm tracking. Wasn't hating on the ice saber, but again, you know, more winter vehicles have other priorities, or other vehicles have priority to me if I were in Hasbro picking out what's coming next. The Paralyzer, I'm not hating on that either, but I would definitely like to see a canopy over the people when they have gunnery going on over them, unless they're all hearing impaired. But also that would be an all right anti-air system if they were to modernize it. But I don't see much potential in that going over well right now. And then more of these cheaper toy price point toys, again, working off the old glider principles. But they did all come with figures, right? Different types of figures. And it was a different type of glider. It was a better glider if I understand its principle. And maybe it sold better. I don't know. Did anybody out here have these just to get the figures, or did they buy them and actually engage the glider? I wouldn't know. But you know, they use some proper cams and whatnot, and you can do digicam. You can do a few things with those. And then we had the ripcord cheap toy, the gyrocopter. You know how these things fly. The premise has been around since your parents. But yeah, it's nothing new to us. And another cheap bid. But again, that airframe at least looks almost based in some modern reality, right? And the last one was the septic tank, which is basically your hiss. How to piss on a hiss, right? So yeah, it's terrible in my opinion. Would there be a market for it? I mean, you also got to remember, guys, by the time they get further down the classified line, the kids they were aiming for are going to be also the adults that are making these videos about them and promoting their toys. So they can go and say, I remember years ago I watched Chrissy O'Crow review this septic tank, and I wanted to tell him that was my favorite. And you go ahead. If this is your favorite, go ahead. I'll respect you. I just won't agree. All right. So who are my picks for what I think, because that's the end of it, guys, what I think would happen for the vehicles. Or sorry, not the vehicles. Let's do the figures first. Okay, the first one I'm going to do is the Joe one. And I believed, who did I pick for that? It was, where'd he go? I wrote it down. Because I had a reason why, and I had to think on it. Well, for the Cobra one, I'm going to tell you right now, it's that Crimson Guard Immortus. Okay, the Crimson Guard Immortus. Sorry, guys, this line makes me think hard whether I want to see a figure or not. And I'm just trying to find the Crimson Guard Immortus. Oh, I remember what the Joe one was now. Crimson Guard Immortus for Cobra, I think, works well with the whole Crimson Guard theme. And you could see them stacking well. I think we just need to approach that chest plate and the weapons a little differently. And you would have a good, solid troop build character for the Joe line. So that is that's my Cobra pick out of the 91 line that I would make. And the Joe one is going to be Red Star from the from the October Guard. I think it's important we get them started. I think that whether or not Russia has controversy or not, I think fictitious comic characters of the past need to be outside of it, because they are fan-driven characters and not social response characters. And Joe started off as something to fuel social response to what was going on with the American military and trying to promote it when they started. And we shouldn't deviate about this. It was about the characters, like this wide range of characters that you wanted us to love. Well, we loved October Guard, so bring them in. Joe line, Hasbro, give me a shout. I will come over there and walk you through what I want, because we all know it's about what Crow wants. God damn it. All right, so enough about that. What's the vehicle? Out of 6 vehicles, really, or 6 vehicles and a handful of low price point vehicles, what was the one I picked? And I think it's going to surprise you guys, and I'll tell you why I'm picking it. It was one of these. Anyone. Pick any one of them. Don't care. I don't care which one. Pick it. Pick it and build it like an actual glider. Use some inspiration here. Build an airframe for it. Use your fabric gods who are molding your figures to build the fabric as a hard piece. No one is going to throw this thing in the air and expect it to fly. This is strictly a vision piece for us to build out of a deluxe box. Cut her in half, right down the middle. Right down that middle line. Yeah. And put it in a deluxe box and we'll build it. Have this a hard piece. Right? Don't make it an actual throwable glider. Make it something that the guy carries and focus on building those pilot figures. Those are our new characters for Joe. You have a really good design team out there. Sometimes people are going to have different opinions on it, but I'm saying you have a really good design team out there and you got some good people doing consultant work, especially Crow. You watch Crow videos, Hasbro. I know you do. I'm going to change your company. But what I'm saying is it's easy to underestimate how nice that a glider could look on a shelf with a new well-done figure. And really where it came from was something a lot of us just passed by on the shelves back then. Tell me that's not a hard flex for Hasbro to do. Hard flex. You don't think we're creative? We made that work. All right, guys. That's the last of it. I think because 91 was such a struggle, the sci-fi vehicles, they weren't working, and I'm going to quickly tell you why as I end the video. My theory why those sci-fi vehicles were not working to keep a market viable and keep building more and more. They were building less. I think it was because a lot of the things we like about our science fiction vehicles, guys, and I'll use more Neil Blomkamp and Ridley Scott and others, yeah, they are sci-fi looking vehicles. And there's Starship Troopers as an example. But they look functional. They look like you could explain why they are doing what they were doing, right? And vertical takeoff and landing is something that, yeah, it's an easy way to get away building wings on vehicles for Joe vehicles. I get it. But there is a scientific principle behind it that starts going to the wayside the more creative liberties you take, right? So let's keep the vehicles. I would hope Hasbro's just sticking to the more realistic vehicles for the immediate future and not looking into anything past really well, as far as the 90s go. I would say stop, go back, start over. But I mean, like, conceptually, there's a lot of really good theoretical fancy flight out there that they could take some of these late 80s, early 90s designs and do an amazing job using some modern inspiration to bring that vehicle back using creative tweaks. But I don't think they could do some of these and most of these vehicles without extreme cost gambling and a lot of failure on predicting sales. So that's it for me on this video, guys. If you like these series, press like. If you want to subscribe. If you want to criticize, go to someone else's channel. If you want to talk about Joe, stick here. All right, guys, thanks again. I will see you next time. Bye.